Welcome to episode 6 of 7 Robots.
Fantastically Terrible podcast. Today's discussion is about the sometimes psychedelic origins of Christmas symbols and traditions. We thought it was a good follow-up to episode 5 on Jodorowsky's Dune.
In honor of the Yuletide season, we started to think about why we have certain customs and why we say things like Yuletide anyway.
What the heck is Yuletide?
We'll find out. Hang on to your red cap. It's going to be a shroomy ride. Speaking of shrooms,
Urban legend says that Santa and his outfit were designed by Coca-Cola, making his first appearance in the early 20th century ads and defining him for the ages by sheer force of our consumeristic culture. But that's not entirely true.
that's right. Before this period, Santa was depicted as a gnome-like little man, most notably in illustrations by Thomas Nast for Harper's Magazine. But he did have a red suit.
Really?
Yes. Then we have Haddon Sundblom. He was born in Michigan to Swedish parents, and eventually he was the artist for Coca-Cola.
Ah, cool.
He added quite a few extra pounds, rosy cheeks, and a jolly wink. So he's very much the Santa that we know today. But what about the pants, the hat, and the boots?
What about them?
Not to mention the bag of goodies, the sleigh, the reindeer. Definitely not something that St. Nicholas would ever wear.
What do you mean, wouldn't wear?
Let's talk a little bit about Santa Claus and where that idea comes from.
Let's do that.
Okay. Santa Claus comes from the Dutch Sinterklaas, which derives from Sint Nicholas.
St. Nicholas.
That's exactly right.
So it's not like claws that are saintly?
No, it is not. It is not. Both Sinterklaas and St. Nicholas are Dutch for St. Nicholas, who was a 14th century bishop from Anatolia, modern-day Turkey.
Right.
And his feast day was on December 6th.
December 6th.
And in a lot of European countries, the kids still put their little shoes out and they get gifts on December 6th.
It's kind of like Reyes.
Exactly. In other cultures, they have it on January 6th for the Epiphany, where the three wise men give gifts.
Yeah. You want to know something?
What?
When you have that Reyes, the next day you go to school. So you get your presents, you got like one day to play with them, and you're back.
Yeah, that sucks. Because Christmas, you're still on Christmas vacation.
Right.
But if you wait till
Like the
all
last
the way
day.
to the last day to get your gifts, that really sucks.
It does.
Yeah. Well, if we kind of go through history, Protestants wanted to absolutely eliminate the veneration of saints. So that's why they didn't want St. Nicholas.
Right.
Done. Gone. And Martin Luther, in particular, in his Reformation, wanted to purge Christianity from all pagan origins. And he replaced St. Nicholas with the baby Jesus who gives gifts. So that's where we get the word Kris Kringle. The child Jesus, or Christkind, however you say that in German, is Kris Kringle.
Kris Kringle.
So that's why we have a mix of St. Nicholas and Kris Kringle.
Wow.
And so they didn't like that Catholicism decided, hey, everyone's partying anyways, let's join. We'll just get them to change their symbolism.
Now, you see it that way? I see it kind of like we can't get them to stop. So why don't we just like scrub it and just call it Christmas and call it a day because we can't win.
Yeah, they decided to, what's that word?
Co-op? They just co-opted it and said, yeah, we can't beat them, but, we'll call it Christmas and we're good.
That's right. That's right. And an example of that is Håkon the Good, who was the king of Norway in the 900s.
Right.
And he was the first Christian Norse king. And he was the one who said, okay, all of these Yule celebrations,
Right.
now we're going to make them Christmas celebrations. So they kept all the same traditions, but they just put that layer of Christianity on top. So keep your partying, keep your festivities, just make it about the baby Jesus. I haven't heard of any Christmas massacres, like if you don't do this, we'll kill you.
There's Valentine's Day massacres. But that was at the
That's
church.
gangsters, and that's
Yes.
nothing to do with Christmas. All right, so let's get back to this whole idea of Santa Claus and where our modern idea of what Santa Claus looks like.
Where did Santa's peculiar propensity for red come from? Here's a quote from a Inhabitat.com article, which is linked to our webpage. His bizarre midnight flight, distinctive chimney-based means of entry into the home, and even the way we decorate our houses at Christmas seem to lead all the way back to the ancestral traditions of a number of indigenous Arctic Circle dwellers of Siberia, specifically. So it's true, Santa really does come from the North Pole.
To go from the North Pole to ancient Siberia isn't a big leap, and a significant aspect of the shamanism was linked to the Amanita muscaria, also known as fly agaric mushroom. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. This mushroom is more widely accepted in the modern world as the Alice in Wonderland mushroom. It was sacred to these ancient people and was used by the shaman and others for ceremonial and spiritual purposes. Amanitas are often bright red with white, which is what we traditionally have as a symbol of Christmas now.
Mm-hmm.
And they only grow beneath certain types of evergreen trees.
Interesting. Amanitas are also intensely psychoactive and toxic.
Bad combination.
Mm-hmm. And one way to reduce the toxicity and increase the psychoactive potency is simply to dry them.
Thank you for that tip.
You're welcome. When out collecting the mushrooms, people would pick a bunch of them under the evergreen trees and lay them out along the branches while continuing to pick the mushroom beneath other trees. The result was something that looked very reminiscent of a modern Christmas tree. Evergreen trees whose branches are dotted with bright red ornaments. Once ready, the shaman would collect the dry mushroom in a large sack.
Is it Shaman Claus?
Shaman Claus.
These Arctic shamans gave this most sacred substance on the winter solstice. According to the theory, the legend of Santa derives from shamans in the Siberian and Arctic regions who would drop in from the top of people's teepee-like homes or yurts, where we get that idea of the chimney, and they would have their sack full of mushrooms, and they would give these hallucinogenic shrooms to people as gifts.
That's quite the Christmas gift.
That's right. And guess what else?
What?
They would continue drying the shrooms by hanging them in a sock near the fire.
Interesting.
Santa, can I have a few more magic mushrooms in my stocking, please?
Yeah.
Isn't that hilarious?
No, it's trippy.
It's very trippy.
Couldn't help it.
And the shamans also had a tradition of dressing up like the mushrooms, the Amanitas. So they would have red suits with white spots.
Interesting.
And they often had this
The Papa Smurf hats.
Papa Smurf hats.
Right.
And, he does come from the North Pole. And if he comes from the North Pole, why is that? It's a really interesting merging of different cultures and different traditions into what we celebrate as Christmas.
Interesting. And we can't forget that reindeer are found around the Arctic Circle, and there's nothing they like better than to snack on a little Amanita muscaria. Reindeer were also common spirit animals. Siberian tribesmen who happened to consume a little fly agaric could definitely have hallucinated that the reindeer could suddenly leap like Superman or even fly. So Santa could indeed take a magical trip with his flying reindeer. It must be noted too, in that area they tend to ride them as horses too.
And they could pull a sleigh.
They could pull a sleigh. Now, why does Rudolph have a red nose? Is it a light or does it resemble a bright red mushroom?
Rudolph trippin'.
Rudolph tripping. Well, we had Rudolph meets Godzilla, so why not Rudolph tripping? Another interesting point is that Thor is known as Donner in German.
From God to reindeer. Ouch. Thor would fly in a chariot drawn by goats, and he's now been replaced by being a reindeer.
That's right.
Interesting.
Actually, yeah, he used to be
a bit demoted there.
Scandinavia's Yule Goat. It's a Scandinavian Christmas tradition based on Norse legends and the worship of the god Thor. If you ever visit Sweden during Christmas, you gotta make sure to see their huge goat made of straw standing at the castle square. The giant goat is erected every year at the beginning of Advent over a period of 2 days.
Interesting. So that there's a lot of traditions of building things to burn them.
Right.
And they do not want you to burn this goat.
No.
No. It's huge.
Right.
So they don't want a giant fire in the castle square. I think in the past they used to burn them.
Well, kind of like Fias.
Fias and all over Spain, actually. We used to live in Valencia in Spain, so every year they had fiestas, which is fantastic, where they would build these huge, beautiful structures and then burn them. And this is very common all over.
Millions of euros just evaporated.
Gone. But it's so cathartic. It's very cool. So it would actually be cool to see the goat burn at the end.
Burn the goat!
The Romans celebrated Saturnalia around the time of the winter solstice, from December 17th, more or less, to the 23rd. And it was the most popular holiday in ancient Rome, and derived from the old farming-related rituals of midwinter and the winter solstice. And they did a lot of things that we do now. They exchanged gifts, which is considered now. Of course, they had feasting and partying. They had religious ceremonies where they would sacrifice to the gods.
No mushrooms, though.
Who knows? Don't know. For a month, the slaves would become the masters, so they would switch roles. Peasants would often take roles where they commanded the cities.
Interesting.
Businesses and schools were also closed. So again, it was a major holiday for them. And around this time, they observed Juvenalia, which was a feast honoring the children of Rome.
Right.
So again, they incorporated that idea of having children being a part of this festival, which we, of course, do with Santa Claus. In addition, members of the upper classes often celebrated the birthday of Mithra, who was a cult that many soldiers and politicians belonged to. And he was the god of the unconquerable sun, and his birthday was December 25th.
Now, we can take it way further back and visit ancient Egypt. Horus was born during the winter solstice around December 25th. His mother was Isis. She had a virgin birth of sorts. Scholars have long recognized the influence that images of Isis with the baby Horus had on the development of the iconography of Mary with the baby Jesus.
That makes sense.
The Isis and baby Horus statues and paintings were probably the most commonly seen mother and child images in the early Christian Roman world. I will also add, it was a very common cult throughout the Roman Empire too as well.
The cult of Isis?
Yes, as a matter of fact, in front of the Pantheon, there used to be an actual little temple to her. But anyway, I'll continue.
Well, many European and also in South America, they have statues of a Black Mary, the Black Madonna.
The Black Madonna.
Well, I won't say definitely, but scholars think it ties back to Isis.
Yes. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised, because a lot of that stuff happened to be Christianized because people were worshiping it, sort of like Christmas, and just got amalgamated. You know, growing up Catholic, you realize all the stuff that you have is really the stuff that you think it is. It's from other borrowed sources. It would have been strange indeed if you had an early painting of Mary and it wasn't influenced by these images. So.
Because they were everywhere.
Right.
And they were very particular because it was a mother and child.
Right. Now, one thing that should be pointed out is that Jesus was not born on December 25th. This is one thing that has to be pointed out.
Yeah, it was only, I looked it up, it was in 336 AD that the Roman Catholic Church made December 25th Christmas Day.
Right.
So it didn't matter. The big celebration, if you're Christian, is Easter, when Jesus rose.
Right, right.
His birthday isn't really a big deal.
Right.
So Christmas was not seen as a religious holiday. It was more of fun and frivolity and festival.
A lot of drinking.
A lot of drinking, a lot of...
No mushrooms, just drinking.
Well, depending on where you lived, right?
Right.
So after the Reformation, the Protestants definitely, that was their line in the sand. They were not celebrating Christmas because it was too tied to what they call pagan, pre-Christian traditions.
Right, and English civil wars, you have Cromwell do the same thing. They kill the king and then they outlaw Christmas because they saw it in the same way. It was pagan. They also didn't like a lot of the rowdy behavior that happened around the Christmas season too as well.
But the English people wanted Christmas.
Yeah, so they got the monarchy back.
And so they were secretly celebrating, but they could get fined if they were caught.
Right.
They were very strict. And it was one of the reasons why they helped support
Charles II.
Charles II when he took over the throne and they reestablished the monarchy in England.
Right.
It was because they wanted Christmas back.
So Christmas caused a revolution and counter-revolution in England.
Who knew?
Yeah, it's Christmas giving.
They take it very seriously, them Brits.
Yes. A little too seriously.
Don't take away my Christmas!
Now, let's shift gears and talk about what Yule means. The Winter Solstice Festival dates back before Viking Age Scandinavia and were marked by many different traditions. The Old Norse festival was known as Jol. In modern English, the word is Yule, which is synonymous with Christmas.
A lot of people ask me that. What the heck is Yule?
Yeah, Yule. Well, that's where we get the word jolly from. And in the French, they have jolie. Since ancient times, families would bring a conifer tree inside and burn the whole trunk all through the winter solstice or the 12 days of Christmas. The fire was lit to entice the sun to return as part of the Jule or Jule festival.
Or Yule Festival.
Yeah, Yule festival.
Not Yule Brenner.
Yeah, no.
I'm just kidding. The candles and lights associated with Christmas, which are meant to symbolize the Star of Bethlehem that guided the three kings or the three wise men to the Christ child, may have evolved from the Yule Log.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go.
Weird.
Teaching you lots today.
You are.
And it's not just in Northern Europe. In France, they also have a tradition of burning the Yule Log. Traditionally, the whole family helps to cut down an evergreen, and they burn a part of it every night. So they didn't stick the whole thing like they did in Scandinavia. They're just like, burn down the whole tree.
Right.
They would take pieces of it every night, and anything left over, any portions, were kept safely in the house until the next Christmas.
Interesting.
So they had a connection between one year and the next. This was also done in some parts of Holland. Even today, the Yule log can still be seen when we sit by the warmth of the fire during the holidays, or enjoy a festive cake shaped like a tree trunk, called a Yule log, or in France, a bûche de Noël.
We can go even further back to the ancient Egyptians and their worship of Ra.
What?
Yeah, he had the head of a hawk and wore a disc representing the sun in his headpiece. At the solstice, when Ra began to recover from his illness, the Egyptians would fill their homes with green palm rushes, which symbolized for them the triumph of life over death.
I see.
And as mentioned earlier about Romans and their celebration of the winter solstice, the Feast of Saturnalia, in honor of Saturn, who was the god of agriculture, they decorated their homes and temples with evergreen boughs as a reminder of the cycle of life, when spring would follow winter.
And we can include ancient Celtic Druids who decorated their temples with evergreen boughs, again as a symbol of renewal and everlasting life. And in Scandinavia, they also brought evergreens in honor of the sun god, Balder.
Balder, yeah.
Did you know that in Iceland, there is no Santa Claus?
What?
But they have 13 Yule lads.
13?
That's right.
Not one, 13.
13. During each of the 13 nights leading up to Christmas, a Yule lad comes down from the mountains to bring children gifts or candy and sometimes play pranks.
Yeah, interesting.
The original tale of the Yule lads, called Christmas is Coming, is by the beloved Icelandic poet, and I'll try to say his name, but I'll probably say it wrong, Jóhann Ur Kutlam.
Yeah, that's tricky.
And I'm going to have a link on our website to an Icelandic woman reading the story.
Oh, cool.
Which is very cool, and I love that I found that. And just for fun, the names of the 13 Yule lads are, and I'll say them in English, not in Icelandic.
Okay, yeah, that looks tricky.
Sheepcoat Clod, Gully Gawk, Stubby, who is very short, Spoon Licker, Pot Scraper, Bowl Licker, Door Slammer, Sky Gobbler, Sausage Swiper, Window Peeper, watch out for him,
Right.
Doorway Sniffer, Meat Hook, that sounds like a horror story, and Candle Stealer.
You know, Stubby, that kind of is funny, considering we were talking about mushrooms, but, The Catalan Christmas is like no other. It's filled with both religious and pagan traditions that are unique to any other culture, even within Spain. The tradition of the pooping log, or the cagatillo.
I am intrigued.
Yeah, well, get ready for this. So it starts on December 8th. First, what you need is a pine tree log. You can chop one down yourself, and then you paint a cute, happy face on one end, or you can buy one. You can even add a red barretina hat or Santa hat, which is kind of like the Papa Smurf sort of red hat, which was worn in many European countries since medieval times. Next, what the kids do, they must take care of cagatillo by keeping it warm under a blanket and feeding it until Christmas Eve.
That's very bizarre. You have a log
Yes.
with a little happy face with a blanket on top.
Yes.
And you feed it and keep it warm.
You gotta take care of it.
This is already bizarre.
The fatter it is, the more presents they'll get.
That's the motivation.
Yes. So the kids will leave plates of food for the cagatillo, and the parents make sure the food magically disappears every night, of course.
This is ridiculous. But if you're a kid, this
awesome.
would be great.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very, So on the night of December 24th, things turn a little violent.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the kids go get a wet stick. Right? And in the meantime, the parents put the gifts under the log's blanket. Okay? This is like putting gifts under the Christmas tree.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? So the kids come back all delighted at their magically fat cagatillo. Okay? They start to sing and beat it with their sticks. Let me say that again. They literally beat the poop out of it.
Oh my God. And the poops in this case are the gifts.
Yes.
So they beat, oh my God.
They beat the poop out of it.
Very
okay?
Nice.
So
I love it. I love it.
It is awesome.
And if I was a kid, I would absolutely adore this.
This would be Mel Brooks's happiest moment
I
in
will
life.
Definitely have a video to this on the website.
Now it's time for the Fantastically Terrible character or creature. This week we'll continue with the bizarre Catalan Christmas traditions with El Caganer.
When you look at a lovely nativity scene with Mary, Joseph, the baby Jesus, the shepherds, the wise men, and then you see a guy dropping a dookie, you know you've entered one of the strangest Christmas traditions of Catalunya.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. While most Christians venerate the miraculous birth of Christ, the Catalans show their unique sense of humor and remind us that everyone needs to relieve themselves when nature calls. So they add this small figurine of a man dressed in a traditional Catalan outfit, with his pants dropped down to his knees, bending down, and literally taking it down.
Wow.
And it's right in the nativity scene.
Wow.
Fathers will even tease their kids by moving the little bare-assed character around the nativity scene for the kids to find. Family fun at its best. Come on, kids, it's time to find the crapper. Between the cagatillo that you explained and El Caganer, the Catalans definitely have a festive fixation with feces.
That's it for today. 7Robots Fantastically Terrible podcast is by Miguel Guerra and Susie Diaz. Our theme song is by Susie.
The best way to support our podcast is to leave a review on iTunes. This helps others to find us, and we can see your name and personally thank you live on the show. For more information on this episode, and there are always many, many links and videos, please visit our website at www.7robots.com/podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.